Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. Holy crap. It's part 4 of the beatdown battle EX2 clears to get the last dupe of Yazzle. I didn't actually think we would do 4 videos in any series ever, but here we are. This is the final batch of teams that I have cultivated to clear EX2 to get the final dupe. One more blue team because I forgot about it on the other videos, and then some orange teams that can get the job done, including one that I don't recommend to anybody, but hey, I did it anyways because why not? Yeah, at this point you guys should know what the stage is. Let's just jump in and clear it. Alright, I thought we were done with blue teams, but I didn't realize that I had one more clip. I would have put this in like one of the other videos because it's a relatively recent team, but hey, whatever, it's here. Commander meta. Renard is stacking alt resistance down and weakness strike. Weakness strike matters not for most of this team because Glenda is the only space character and she's not nuking. So we've got Diablo, who is our single target nuker. Hinata is our backup sub DPS. Glenda giving the alt swap and the guaranteed synergy to all physical allies. Commander Shizu handling the oranges while having the massive physical buff and EX alt buff. And then Hinata for the element buff, which Hinata you could bring Dark Shinsha or something like it. Someone to help buff Diablo's attack up even higher is really what that last slot is needed for. And I don't actually know if we get an EX alt for Diablo. Because we have no real good way to alt rush him, because normally I would use his Lord's Ambition skill, but that's sealed. So can't do that. Which means we're relegated to sending a whole bunch of nerfed blues. So there's no other way to get extra alt gauge, unless we get literally a god hand of all Diablos like 4 times in a row. That's the only way. But Hinata is a competent orb changer. She does have that stupid multi-hit thing, so she doesn't actually give us any extra gauge on these blues, which probably made that difference in not getting a protector right there. But I think we do have turn 3 protection gauge somewhere, so we're actually going to get that stack. I think it's because of Lumi underneath Diablo. Oh, no, we do, but it's not enough. Sad face. Okay, well, yeah, we will entirely blame that on Hinata's skill not having gauge and having multi-hits, which are not useful in 99% of the game. So, cool. We'll burn a turn out, and yeah, another blue hand. Cool beans. Renard stacking weakness strike again means nothing because only Glenda is type advantage and she's not up front getting these stacks. Alt resistance down, however, does matter because as we've seen from Fount of Wisdom Diablo, it does make an impact. However, Fount of Wisdom Diablo is quite old. Renard is 4 months old, somewhere around there. This team is still relatively recent. I don't know if people actually have it, but it's been featured on some bait banners. Some of these characters have been in reruns of their own, so maybe it's possible you have them. All these teams that I'm running are possibilities, right? I don't expect everyone to have every single full goddamn meta in the game, and nobody really should unless you're a whale. But trying to give people options. Maybe you got really insanely stupid lucky off the that 10 guaranteed EX multis. I've seen people get stupid luck there, so it's possible. Okay, it's turn 6. Alt swap Shizu away. We still don't have a Diablo or alt, if shock surprise. So we're only going to have his normal EX alt, which is still going to be enough power because of everything else going around here. It's just that the only thing that Diablo won't get is the extra 70% EX alt buff from Shizu. Still going to get the physical buff, still going to get his own synergy power and attack buff and the element buff and the 120% alt damage from Hinata and the guaranteed synergy from Glenda. But we're missing half of Shizu's buff, and there's no real way to get around that unless we're running like an alt rush charm, and I don't really recommend that. You should be getting protection gauge on this team as much as possible to get more and more stacks of Renard. So turn 8 is coming up. We have 448 points, which means we are pretty much ready to nuke now. For some reason, I still have 2 minutes left in this clip, though, so I'm not quite sure what we did here. Maybe I was waiting for something. Oh, no, I know why. Because we don't have a fucking Diablo alt. There's an excellent reason for that. God damn it. Alright, let's alt swap away, and then let's use the 2 converts. before we swap Shizu out, because Shizu has 4 orbs. That will get Diablo's ult. Alright, now we can put a stack on. We'll bring Hinata in for Hinata, that way we can apply the element buff to him next turn. And we'll be looking pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That does get his ult, plus some, wonderful multi-hits. Congratulations. And yeah, there we go. We have an ult. Unfortunately, our hand is kind of ass, but it doesn't matter, because we're going to nuke. So you're going to come in for Hinata. We've used her element buff. We'll use the guaranteed synergy on both of them, and then we'll bring Hinata in for Glenda, and we'll use everything else. So, boom, boom, boom. 137 points left over. We can orb change if we want. Doesn't really matter, though. We got one more stack of Renard to use, and then we'll send Shizu first, just to see, and help Diablo do a bit more damage on her effect. She does 210, not great. Diablo does 1.4. That's pretty good. So he would have one-shot at full HP. And that wasn't an EX ult, so it was missing the extra damage from just being an EX ult, and it was missing 70% ult damage. So if we had it, he would have really overkilled there. Starting with the most recent Orange team, the one that just came out earlier this month, / last month, Antagonist, Emils, Shinsha, the new Unbound Isis and Kyokyo that are still currently featured on an anniversary banner. Visions of Coleus Violet, because she's good. Exalted Champion Rimuru, because he was really good for this team. This will work. It's Pierce focused. Orange orbs are not nerfed here. And the only problem is that you're really getting the most value out of this team on turn 5, when Milim still has her ult resistance up. Because if you try and go to turn 6, half of the buffs from Isis and Kyokyo are no longer active. And those buffs are pretty impactful, mostly for Isis, because Kyokyo just loses Weakness Strike, which no one on this team except Violet is type advantage, and we're not nuking with her. So that part of his buff, not important. The 40% magic buff that he's giving is important. So really, I mean, okay. We're skipping that? Okay, I think we have to rearrange so we get a good turn 1. We do have 36 starting points, so we can convert this entire hand to oranges using the Shinsha orb change, which is what we do. There we go. So in talking time. So we send this. This will get us ults very quickly. But continuing point on, while the Kyokyo buff being cut in half is not super impactful, the Isis buff is really impactful. So we want to nuke on turn 5 with an EX ult for Shinsha and preferably someone else. Isis is type advantage, so walking back what I said earlier, she would benefit off of the Weakness Strike buff from Kyokyo, and her being single target is also pretty important. And we do have an ult swapper here. Now Isis is in the unbound state, so she will do extra damage. So let's bring Rimuru in for Kyokyo, and we'll use his ult swap. Boom, and then we can use Emils. We'll get a full hand of oranges, plus 2 more rainbow orbs, and we'll be pretty much ready to go, because we should get either close or very close to the EX ult for Isis. The problem with Isis, though, is that her other skill is sealed. The Drago and the Pierce power buff is sealed, because it's a body and spirit skill. So either way, we're missing something on this team that could be impactful, but now we have EX ults for both AoE, DPS, and the space single target that we're actually worried about. So I just want more points. And we have one more turn of 30 points that Emils is going to give us, so we're going to use it. So now we'll be at 210. Boom. And now we're pretty much ready to nuke. So let's use the ult buff. Let's use the attack buff. Let's use the debuff from Isis, since it doesn't matter who's up front for that, because it's just a debuff. And then we'll bring Kyokyo in. Yeah, and use his buff. So you don't actually need Violet on this team. We didn't use her once. Like, she was an antagonist unit, yeah, sure, but we didn't actually use her buff or her orb change. So this is running just on the raw power of the new characters. And Kyokyo, 76k, not great, but he doesn't have a good multiplier. Neither does Isis, but she still does 337. And then Shinsha, 548, and the follow-up orbs do just enough, 256. Because the follow-up orb is not an ult, it actually does a lot more damage, as you can see. Yeah, that worked out. It worked out pretty well. Even with the ult resistance up, we were still able to burst through it because of the raw power. And this is all relatively new characters. Violet, again, we don't need her. You could bring someone else. Rimuru, he's kind of important. He's the alt swapper. He's got the attack buff. That is pretty large. But you can probably bring like Light Milim. You just have to worry about an alt swap. So maybe replace Violet with Idol Shuna or something, or Overlord Shizu if you have her. That could work in a way. But that's Antagonist. Let's move on. Alright, everyone's favorite orange team. The problem with this team is that we are going against some heavy nerfs for quite a bit of the fight. Milim has physical resistance, and crit resistance, and alt resistance for quite a bit. So this team is physical, and alting, and critting. So we're not going to really make it a burst team. We're just going to kind of go to turn 6 or 7 when all of that leaves, and then we will nuke. Xion, changing orbs to oranges, giving physical allies guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy. Rimuru, our single target DPS, has an attack buff. The rainbow orbs. Diablo has crit resistance down. Tempasleep Benimaru, or you could replace him with Fount of Wisdom Rimuru for the physical buff. Milim and Shinsha for their personal buffs. We're going to need their alts as well. We're going to need all 3 of them. And it can do it. It's not exactly what I would call pretty, but we can definitely get the job done. And that's the most important part. And New Year's Blessing is a very good team that I've been pushing for people to try and get. It's really good. Rimuru, Rainbow Orbs, great. Diablo free to play really only works on this team, but he works really well on this team. So, turn 1, we still can't do anything. We haven't been able to do anything since the first video, essentially. Well, we could do stuff on the second video, I guess, with some of the green teams we had. But regardless, 4 green orbs. Call it a day. And now we have 4 Rimuru orbs, which is great. We can bring Diablo in for any one of those girls, and we could use his skill to swap the remaining 2 orbs to Rimuru to give him 6 orbs, which we can then convert into rainbows and give him his EX ult immediately, turn 2, which is great. So, giveaway, rainbow orbs. We're 1 point shy from using like the future hand or the personal attack buff with Rimuru. Not a big deal. Gets us 126, 2 stacks or 2 uses of Xion, which we're not really going to use, but we are going to use because we need to. We need to get full hands and we need to get alts for everybody else. So Rimuru, he's good. Like he can go away now. We can use his physical buff or his attack buff and hold that in the back. Half of it is weakness strike, does not matter because he's not type advantage. So we're only using it for the 40% attack, which still definitely does help. And then we'll bring Milim in for Diablo. He has a lot of orbs. And now we'll use Xion. Give us the oranges. The crit and synergy is going to nerf our damage down while also being physical nerfs our damage. So we do peanuts here. Yeah, 3,700. She has 1.3 million HP. Yeah, we're doing a lot there. But it gets us alts. Shinsha has a single alt swap to orange, which will help. So we can use that and it's free. We can also use Milim's future hand of oranges if we want to. And that'll make next turn something of a non-factor, but looks like we're not. So we're going to keep at 180 points, and then next turn is the final turn that we're going to get 30 points from Xion, and we just carry that over. So now we have an EX ult for Rimuru, an EX ult for Milim, who is an AoE character, and then we have an ult for Shinsha, who is type disadvantage. So not great for Shinsha, but she will contribute at least some damage, because she's still going to get the crit and synergy and all those buffs as well. The person who doesn't matter is Benimaru's ult, because he's just here to support whoever happens to be up front. But we now need to make sure that we are ready to go. So, who are we bringing in here? The crit resistance is about to leave. The physical and alt resistance is gone now, so that's cool, but we still need one more turn. So, we'll bring in Diablo. And I should have actually brought in Rimuru for probably Shinsha and left it like that, but oh well. So we're going to crit resistance down here, 25%, because she has no other crit resistance. We'll bring in Rimuru for Diablo, and now we're kind of at an impasse because I misplayed. And we have to use Benimaru's buff too, but we have all 3 of our nuking characters up front, so we're going to sacrifice somebody. Who do we sacrifice? Yeah, Shinsha. Type disadvantage, not an EX ult. Not a big deal. Milim and Rimuru still have their buffs. If you need extra damage on this team, then you can just not be an idiot like me and you could set it up so all 3 alts could be up front, and at least Milim and Rimuru can be buffed. 400k, 780k, and that's after the alt resistance and physical debuff and crit resistance are gone. So New Year's Blessing team can do it. It's not quick because it's turn 7, but it can certainly get the job done. I think Benimaru's buff is necessary though, or some kind of physical buff, whether it be him or Warrior's Mind Lumi can give physical buff, or Fountain Wizard Rimuru. You need him or some kind of other equivalent buff that this team doesn't have, like an element buff or something to help them do more damage. You're gonna need that. This team, without Benimaru and some other free-to-play character, I don't think has enough damage. And finally, we have reached the end of all of the teams I have recorded for EX2. This is probably the worst team to use. I don't recommend doing this at all, but I thought it would be kind of funny, and I challenged myself to do it, and by God, we did it. Wielder of Magic, the team that came out in the same time slot as the Antagonist meta this year, but 1 year ago. So another orange burst pierce focused magic team, but it was a water team. So that's type disadvantage against this Milim. So it works okay. It's not great, but it's okay. We've got Milim, we've got Violet, shock surprise, we have free-to-play Ranga, we've got Hinata on her own actual meant-to-be-on team, Shinsha, who is very important for this team, actually, and then we've got Shizu, who is a single-target space nuking character. Nuking, I say, with air quotes. Really, like a lot of air quotes. But this team has the gimmick of Shizu being able to reset some of your skills costs by 1 level, 1 time. So we're really going to take advantage of that to do as much damage as possible and wait out the turn limit where the alt resistance is up. Milim is not like the current burst protectors. She doesn't give you 30 skill points every single turn. She gives you 40 skill points every time you use her. So passively, we don't get anything. But actively, we get 40, which you can kind of control a bit. So you can build up like a double stack of Milim. You can get 80 extra skill points out of that. And if you cap out at 150, 150 plus 80, that's looking really good. So we just have to get there. And we need EX alts for like everybody. We need an EX alt for Shinsha. We need an EX alt for Space Shizu. And we need at least an alt for Violet. So if you don't have Violet, there's no way in fucking hell this team is working. Just straight up. You can skip this clip and you can end the video and you can go watch something else and you can finish your day. But God damn it, we're gonna do it. So I believe we used Ranga's Pierce Power buff. So that also gives green orbs extra skill points. We've used Shinsha's buff, which gives blue or orange orbs extra damage and extra protection gauge, which is important. Both of those things, we're doing a lot of normal damage with space orbs here. And we have an EX alt for Shinsha. Excellent. So let's use the element buff now, because we can reset it later on. And we'll also use the future hand of oranges. And are we going to alt rush here? Do we alt rush? I don't think that's a good idea, but okay. Oh yeah, we do. Okay. I mean, it gets us closer to a Shizu EX alt. That's cool. We have another one of coming in. We don't have any alt swappers, though. Kind of a problem. Kind of a big problem on this team. But Shinsha needs to go away. So who are we bringing in? Probably Ranga. We need to send her away now, because one, we need to keep that element buff, and we also need to keep the Pierce Power buff that Ranga put on her last turn. It lasts for 2 turns, which is great, but this is the last turn that's going to be active. So we need to hold that in the back. And now we'll bring Ranga in for Violet, and we'll just reset everything. Yes, no, maybe so? Yeah, because we can reset the Pierce Power, we can reset the element buff, the feature hand of oranges, and reset the alt rush ability. And now we get her EX alt here, which is excellent. Let's give her the Pierce Power now that she has that, so both her and Shinsha have it, which is good. It's necessary. It'd be nice if Violet had it too, but oh well. 53k on the orange orbs because they still have the damage buff. That's nice to see. And now we have an EX alt for her, and we have a guaranteed hand of oranges, and we could use the element buff and put it on Shizu now, and use another future hand of oranges. That's the power of the reset gimmick. And now look at that. Another full hand of oranges. We have an EX ult for Hinata, who is an AoE type disadvantage water character. Not important. We're gonna send this. I don't want it here. I want points, and I want a double protector of Milim, so we can use all of the buffs necessary. And don't hold it, just send it. Please send it. Pass Joker. Okay, yeah, good. Alright, there we go. That gets us max points. It gets us very close to a second Milim right there. The crit resistance is leaving. Not a big deal, because we're not a crit-focused team. But we just need to send a little bit more, and then we can get a double Milim stack, which is good. So this hand, we're going to kind of play around with. And 1, 2, 3. We have a Hinata ult. We have a Hinata orb. We have a Ranga orb. We have a Violet orb coming in. We need to get Violet's ult, unfortunately, because without it, we don't have enough power. So even though we are capped out on literally everything, we need to go one more turn to get Violet's ult, so she can get at least the guaranteed pierce and the magic buff and contribute some level of single target damage. So, yeah, I think about switching. We don't actually switch. So 1, 2. Nope, it's not what we need to do. We need to do this. There we go. So by sending the 3 Violet orbs, she'll get an ult next turn, so that'll guarantee. We have a Hinata orb. We have Ranga orbs. Perfect. Look, this hand is actually the best it could be. So we bring Shinsha in for Hinata. We've already used her element buff, it's fine. And we'll bring Shizu in for Ranga. And now she has all the orbs. So now we can ult rush / ult resistance down, magic buff, use the EX ult damage buff from Shinsha, use Milim, give us 40 skill points, and that will allow us to use the extra orange orb damage, which is important. So we'll send Violet, we'll send Shinsha, we'll send Shizu. Violet does 86k, not great, but okay. 341 for Shinsha, and Shizu does 471. So we definitely needed everything there. We didn't need the extra orange buff for the orbs because we didn't even get to the oranges, but it was just a safety net in case maybe your units aren't as duped up or have as good gear and you need that extra damage. That's certainly something you can do. But that ends the 4-part video series on clearing EX2 Beatdown Battle for those free Gazzle dupes. I wanted to do a lot of teams because there's a lot of people playing. A lot of people probably pulled on that guaranteed EX banner. Maybe they have some of these teams they can use. Hopefully it gives you an idea. Let me know if these 4 videos helped you out and you found something in here that is usable. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.